It's going to be good. Hello, everybody. It's Chastity White Rose here, and I have with me Jasmine, it appears, who is also known as Vegan Ariel, and she has a great YouTube channel, and I saw her page on Facebook, started seeing some of her videos, and I contacted her because I like somebody who is willing to put out that controversial content, that stuff that really gets you hated by people, because this has been my experience, Jasmine. My experience is that, when you're a former Christian turned atheist, but you're also vegan and you're also transgender, and it's so weird. And then I have people who don't like me because biologically I'm a white male biologically, of course. So they hate males. And they hate white people now. White people are bad. In case you haven't heard the news, apparently, if you're white, you're just bad all of a sudden. So I don't know. So what do you think? Like, is there any particular topic you'd like to talk about? We could talk about anything.
What I thought was really interesting with you was I had a video which was talking about how, I don't know, basically in the video I spoke about, firstly, kids transitioning, so kids having hormone blockers, and I also spoke about trans women being involved in women's sports, being in women's prisons. And I thought that was interesting because you were saying that you thought that trans people should have their own sections in prisons and their own sport. So I found that quite interesting, because I spoke to other trans people and they were calling me transphobic, and I was thinking, well, like, being a trans woman and being a biological woman, it's a different experience, and and they have different needs, essentially.
So here's my take on it, because I think that's a perfect way to get started. Because let me tell you exactly what I think about the transgender sports people things, or the trans people and restroom sort of thing. So here's what it's about for me. First of all, now I don't play sports, but if I did play sports, here's the reality. Okay, so me as a transgender individual, I would not be comfortable playing sports with cisgender people of male or female. And there are some very big reasons for that, because a lot of trans people will not admit that there are biological differences between males and females, and there are. Nobody knows it better than a transgender person, but a lot of them are intellectually dishonest. Like, I'm serious. I can't even stand transgender people. I'm not transgender because I've been influenced by transgender people to be part of their club. They hate me too. It's weird. They said you can't vote for, like, for one thing, one of the groups I was in said that you'd be banned if you voted for Trump. Like, like, I kid you not. And the thing is, I did vote for Trump, actually, but they don't know that yet, so they haven't banned me yet. So it's funny. And see, here's the thing about it. So, like, back to the sports thing. So first of all, I have a unique situation because I'm not the sports type, but I'm physically smaller and weaker than other biological males. In fact, I believe I have Klinefelter syndrome. I have every symptom of Klinefelter syndrome, which is a chromosome disorder, which would explain transgender feelings in so many ways. Because there are a lot of chromosome disorders, and so genetically, sometimes you really don't meet the criteria of being male or female. You might have altered chromosomes. You might be a cisgender female, for example, but you might have high testosterone, or you might have high estrogen but be a biological male, and so you have certain physical or emotional characteristics because of your differences. And that's my situation, is that I've always been a little bit weaker and smaller and shorter, and weighed less than other males my same age. So I would get pummeled if I was in sports with biological cis males, typically. On the other hand, if I was to play sports with the average female, I probably weigh 30 to 40 pounds more than them, and I probably am a little bit stronger. And I do have, because of my skeletal structure, having gone through puberty as a male, I do have a lot more raw power than a typical female, and even without testosterone in my system, because I actually had a bilateral orchiectomy, so I don't have testicles anymore. So my testosterone is like next to nothing, and yet I still have retained a lot of my physical strength. Plus, I work out a lot anyway. But so I know probably better than anyone in the world just how damaging it is to have transgender people with various levels of differences biologically compared to cisgender people. And so I think there needs to be a separate trans women sports group where they're somewhat on an equal level, or a trans men sport group. But you should not be having the trans people and the cis people on this exact same team competing, because it would be disastrous. You might be able to get away with it in certain cases, like in wrestling with, weight classes. They actually have weight classes. So people who are a similar size and that sort of thing, you might be able to in certain cases. But if you want to compete with people who happen to be of cis and you're trans, it should be done for fun. It should be done for fun. It should not be part of professional leagues where there's scholarships and money being made as a business, because it's going to cause all sorts of legal problems, all sorts of social problems, lawsuits, that kind of thing. Now, so if I wanted to play some type of sport with somebody of whatever gender, cis or trans, for fun as a friend, yeah, why not? And some things are okay, like, frisbee golf. Like I play frisbee golf with my friend, sometimes, and you're just throwing frisbees. I mean, so it doesn't make a difference in that case, obviously. Nor does chess. And chess is the only true sport, the game of chess, where we are all equal.
Well, it's kind of interesting because there was one girl who was denied a scholarship, a sports scholarship, because two transgender men were now ahead of her in that particular sport, and it was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think with wrestling, you've got to be careful, especially with contact sports as well, because men tend to be stronger than women. So women could get really seriously beaten up. Yeah,
seriously. So I think the sports thing is a complex issue, but I believe that there should probably be a total of 4 sports leagues, and that there needs to be a difference, because even now, the trans men, for example, are a very interesting case, because trans men are a whole different story than trans women. And here's why: because a trans woman, might have hormones and surgery, and they might look more female, but they're still going to be stronger. There's still going to be some differences there, typically, unless they've been on hormones for like 10 years, in which they might actually be pretty close, But trans men are a whole different story. Trans men, when they start taking testosterone, they're born female, they start taking testosterone, well, their hands get bigger, their muscles get bigger. They get bulkier. So they have an expansion of their whole body, and they grow facial hair. And so, but if you look at trans men who have been in testosterone for like 3 years, you cannot tell that they were born female, because they look more masculine than I do. And in fact, I had a friend who had a trans man boyfriend, and said that he was more masculine than I was. Not that it takes much, because I was already a soy boy anyway. Unfortunately, I'm the stereotype, and I'm very proud of my soy. I drink so much soy milk. It's funny because what happened with me is, see, I went vegan in 2013, and then some people, they're like, oh, well, vegans eat a lot of soy, and soy will make you grow boobs. And I'm like, really? So I started drinking more soy milk to see if I could confirm this theory. Unfortunately, it doesn't work as advertised, So,
well, apparently, cow's milk gives you is more likely to give you boobs, because it's got more estrogen in it, and it's the type of estrogen that it's mammalian estrogen, so that's more likely to give you boobs. Yeah, it's actually.
Yes, exactly. Because here's the thing: plant estrogen and animal estrogen are not the same thing. There's a big difference, because every plant has hormones in it, and even plants are male and female biologically in a certain sense. And there are certain herbs that are highly estrogenic. In fact, Bite Size Vegan, that YouTuber?
Yeah.
Yeah, she actually had this doctor on there that explained that the highest estrogenic compound was not soy, but actually hops, which are in beer. So it's really, so not only if you drink a lot of beer, can you have a beer belly, but you'll have beer boobs. So that's basically what the doctor was saying, is that there's all these men thinking it's manly to drink beer. They don't realize they're loading themselves up with so much estrogen, they're giving themselves boobs, and it leads to erectile dysfunction and all sorts of things that these men don't like. But people are dumb. They fall for advertising. The meat and dairy industries are just, they have all these commercials, and it's like, seriously, do people believe in stuff? And the beer commercials are the worst. Like, okay, little funny story, okay? Because I work at a grocery store, and years ago when I worked at the other Hy-Vee in Lee Summit, so there was this guy who was buying all this beer, and he was talking to me about his beer, and I said, well, I don't drink beer, and he's like, well, don't you want to have a bunch of beautiful women around you? and then I said, why would I want that? It's weird because I get it. He was referencing like these beer commercials where some man drinks a beer, and then all of a sudden there's all these naked women all around him that and I'm like, well, why would I want that? Like, and I said this in a grocery store. I was stacking his groceries. He was the customer, and the cashier gave me the strangest look, like, it was just hilarious. I tell you,
but does he really think that some like naked hot women are going to show up while he's drinking?
maybe that's why he drinks so much beer. Maybe he thinks that's going to happen someday. I don't even know. Oh man, it's really funny, But yeah, so that's the thing about it. And another thing with the transgender people in restrooms and that kind of thing. Well, here's the thing about it. First of all, yeah, like I can see both sides of that debate. Okay, like but the way I look at it is, okay, right now, of course, I still look like a male to most people, so of course I'm going to use the men's restroom. That's just what I've always done, and I'll probably keep doing that. And in fact, it could be funny someday, because what if I do go on hormones and I look like super much like a woman and go in the men's restroom? Then what are they going to say? Are they going to say, sorry, you're in the wrong restroom? What's going to happen? I'm curious. I want to know if that time comes. But I understand people's perspective. And now there are people who assume that trans women going in the women's restroom means that they're going to go in there and rape women because they're biological males, which first of all that comes across as offensive to trans people, assuming that they're all rapists. It's kind of weird. So it's offensive to them, but at the same time, I understand if that's a fear for them, then we should not make them uncomfortable. If we can find that, so I believe in unisex or single person bathrooms. Like, a lot of stores, it's like, it's just one person goes in that bathroom at a time. Like at the Hy-Vee where I used to work, they have 6 bathrooms. They have 3 men's and 3 women's, but it doesn't matter which you go in, because the only difference between the men's and the women's restroom, because they have one regular toilet. In the men's restrooms, they also have urinals. In the women's restrooms, they have a baby changing station. But what if you are a dad with a baby and you need a baby changing station? Well, then you go in the women's restroom, you use the toilet yourself and change your baby's diaper. You know what I mean? But because it's one person in there at a time, there's no issue. Nobody's worried about their safety. And that's the way I think things should be handled with the bathroom issue. But at the same time, what they're also not considering is that little boys can be raped by grown men in the men's restroom. Did they ever think about that? No, they don't bring that up. So I think here's what happens is that some people are legitimately concerned about their safety and they're confused. They don't know what's going on in this world because I get it. This transgender thing is a new thing for the world to have to figure out. It took them a long time just to figure out gay people, which they still haven't completely got, but it's like, so I can look, there are debates like that. There are controversies where I can see both sides of that discussion.
Mm-hmm.
I can see what these people are saying, and then I can see what these people are saying, and I'm like, well, you're both right, but you're both wrong at the same time. You're right about this, but wrong about this. You're right about this, but wrong about this. And nobody has all of the answers. Like, nobody knows everything. You know what I'm saying? And so I like to listen to both sides of these debates. So I like controversy. I like to learn from people. So that's who I am. I like to hear things that people have to say. And this the transgender debates. That's sort of a recent thing, even for me, looking at the stuff people are saying, because so for so many years, just promoting veganism and people getting hostile when you're a vegan, and they like, oh well, God put animals on this earth so we could eat them, and I'm like, really? Then what did God put the plants here for? Like it's weird. And then the abortion issue. Oh man, the abortion issue. That is such a vast topic there too, and people agree and disagree on various different issues. But like the abortion issue, what's interesting about that issue is that I can sort of see both sides of it. Now I'm personally pro-life myself,
Yeah.
but I can understand how people might feel a different way. But I have an interesting take on it that most people don't understand where I'm coming from with this. But I know how babies are made. I know how people get pregnant. And years ago, I decided, well, I'm going to be celibate for life. And I named myself Chastity White Rose, and it had a lot to do with the abortion issue. But then later on, I became even stronger in my celibacy vow, because I thought what the humans are doing to the animals in factory farms and all sorts of things. It's like, so I became sort of antinatalist. I'm antinatal.
Okay.
Yeah, it's weird. So I am a pro-life antinatalist sort of a thing here. So this confuses the hell out of people. They don't get it because I'm not for murdering those here, but I want to prevent unwanted pregnancy. And so, and people, they're actually not very educated on a lot of these issues. For example,
so I have a question for you then,
okay,
as a pro-life antinatalist. Are you a pro-life antinatalist for yourself, or because often antinatalism is a widespread thing? So it's about wanting to reduce the population. So are you just an antinatalist because you don't want children and you don't want to reduce your impact? Or is it more about the rest of the world as well?
Well, here's a good way of putting it. I really wish that more people would consider this. That they would consider, adopting those who are already here, adopting children, rather than this obsession with procreating. So we have two things going on. First of all, we have people who are intentionally procreating and keep bringing in new babies into the world all the time, and they mean to do that. So of course they're not aborting their babies. But then you have people who have unwanted pregnancy, or what they call accidental pregnancies, and stuff like that. And they're not trying to procreate, but they like having sex. And birth control is not 100% effective. So then they end up getting pregnant and they think, oh, well, I'll just abort. And so it's sort of it's kind of interesting, because I really wish people, this is going to sound weird to say this, I really wish people just took their power more seriously. I wish people took sex and marriage and commitment more seriously. And this is before my time, but there was a time when people just generally thought, well, people you don't have sex until you're married, and you do intentionally to have children, that's kind of thing. So I know it sounds Catholic, and I'm not Catholic, but I'm just saying, people, they don't even think about the issue. They may disagree with me, and they may not wish the human race would go extinct. Like I sort of wish the human race would go extinct because of look what we do to animals, because look what a low percentage of us are actually vegan and actually follow the golden rule and do nonviolence. So yeah, like personally, I wish that everyone would stop reproducing and we just die. We go extinct, not because anybody's murdered, but because we just stop creating new babies. I know that's not going to happen. That's my fantasy. I know it's not going to happen because people are still going to keep having sex. People are still going to want to reproduce and create children. But my hope is that by me talking about this, and I do talk about it in my videos and my writing occasionally, that more people would think about this and think, well, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have kids because they might turn into carnists, they might abuse animals, and I don't want that. Or maybe I should adopt someone instead of creating a new one. Why don't I give someone else who's already here a home? That's how I feel. And I think that by me talking about it and by having the discussions, people are allowed to hear both sides of any debate, and they're allowed to take the good from opposing sides and think, you know what, I agree with what this person said, but I also agree with what this person said. So that's where I'm at. That's why free speech is important. That's why talking about controversial topics is great.
I suppose the issue that I have is the fact that, well, if you're not the UK population as well as most of the West, we have an aging population. So the younger people aren't actually having that many children. White people only have 1.5 babies per person. And then most of our population growth is due to immigration. Mm-hmm. And it's mainly the developing countries that are actually having the most children. So I don't think it's really a Western problem and about Western people not having children. It's about people in these developing nations not having children. And the only way they're not going to have children is by promoting things like upward mobility in those particular areas. When you become rich and when your children become more of a liability and you have to pay for their school and all of this other stuff for them, then people don't want to have as many children. That's how it is.
Yeah.
And the other issue is with immigration, different cultures have different opinions on the environment and on animals. So we do have quite a significant amount of Chinese people coming into the country, and I do love Chinese culture. However, one of the issues with it is the fact that they treat animals very, very badly. If you ever, they were selling. I remember when I went to China, they were selling little watches with tiny turtles, as kids' toys, and it's just really weird, ridiculous stuff. And so, I think that having kids is okay, but you need to install vegan values as well as environmental values in your children.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, and I know that Chinese people also eat dogs. And that's the thing is it's so weird, isn't it, that people are horrified when they find out people are eating dogs, because to Americans and to other people in other countries, dogs are considered pets. They're not considered food. And I think it's important to be reminded that veganism is simply treating all the animals the way that people treat their pets. That we don't try to hurt them. We don't kill them and eat them. But
the whole Yulin dog meat is, to me, a much bigger issue of animal rights and animal welfare within China, because they don't have any animal welfare protections. So they can do things like get bear bile. There was a guy in a small village I was in China, and he was riding around on his motorbike, and then he had fish on the back, like a massive fish tank on the back, right? And he would grab a fish out of the tank and just cut its head off in front of people when someone picked a fish. I mean, the animal welfare standards in China aren't good, and exactly the same treatment that they do to dogs, they do to pigs, they do to chickens, they do to all of the other animals.
Yeah.
And so it's more of an issue of animal rights within China.
Yeah. Yeah, but and also anyway, back to the having kids thing. See, here's the thing is that like vegans are actually split on this issue, believe it or not, because on the one hand you have some vegans who think, well, we should have kids, we should reproduce more so that we have kids right from the start and we can teach them to be vegan. You know, some people are like that, and other people are like, well, no, let's not bring those children into the world for them to suffer. And besides, they may not stay vegan anyway. They may decide to be cool in the club with their friends who are all eating animal products and then just forget all about veganism. So, you know, vegans are split on that issue as well. But I think it's an interesting discussion to be had. And also, you mentioned about someone like the cost of people having kids. That's another thing. Like there are child-free groups. Now, some people call themselves child-free because they have personally chosen not to have kids because, you know, they don't want to spend the money and they don't have time they don't have time to raise kids, you know, which those are all valid reasons too. So some people are simply child-free. They just personally choose to not have kids because it doesn't fit in with their lifestyle. Whereas someone like me, well, I do view it as sort of a moral wrong. And here's why, because what it's doing is you're saying, well, I'm not going to adopt one of the people who are already here who needs a family. Instead, screw them. I'm going to create a new child who has my genes. And what that is, that comes from our evolution, like this obsession with people passing on their own genes and creating what they think is part of themselves. And they treat their genetic children as being more valuable than, you know, someone who's adopted, because people have this obsession with their own genetics. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I don't think it's, I suppose the other thing is that people have predispositions towards veganism and towards environmentalism. So there's actually a genetic component of being more likely to be an environmentalist. So that's one thing we have to consider. And the second thing is that certain personality traits are actually associated with veganism. So one of which is not listening to authority. That's kind of a general personality trait that vegans have.
I can see that.
And that's partly genetic. There's another one which is, what's the other one? They tend to be more free thinking and they tend to be more individualist. So those people are more likely to go vegan as well. So it's quite interesting because those personality traits are associated with veganism. And so one of the issues that we might have is if we're saying that the people that are going to have kids are the people that aren't going to be that concerned about the environment. They're not going to be they're not going to have the genetic traits for that. And they're probably not going to have the genetic traits for veganism either, because a lot of vegans are anti-natalist as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because in a way, we're sort of in a losing battle with biology. And I spoke to my friend in another live stream recently about this, how in a way, the people who are reproducing the most are people who have certain belief systems. Like, for example, Catholics and Mormons come to mind, certainly. But generally among, Christians, for example, there's this idea that God commanded people to be fruitful and multiply. And they obey that, but they didn't obey the part about not eating of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, which is funny. It's like, but people cherry pick. But so, yeah, what happens is, people of a certain culture, of a certain religion, of a certain background, and of course, genetic traits, like you mentioned, are going to be more likely to reproduce than others. And so it's kind of strange because some people like me and my friend Pafo, you might know him. have taken ourselves out of the gene pool. Well, he's cool. He actually started his own religion called biopantheism that includes veganism. It's really nice, actually. But yeah, so he yeah, it's actually pretty cool. So that's the thing is, yeah. So he believes things the same way as I do. So he got a vasectomy, and then I don't have testicles. Not that it would matter because I was celibate anyway, but that's a whole other story. But so we've removed ourselves from the gene pool because we're not going to reproduce. So our vegan compassionate genes will not be passed on. So whereas the people who are from a culture that believes in having lots of children, for whatever the reason is, those people are going to be the ones ruling the world because they pass on their carnism typically. Because most people are just a fact. Most people are carnists. Most people are not ethical vegans, and those that are ethical vegans were not raised as such. I wasn't raised vegan. You probably weren't either, were you?
No.
Yeah. In fact, maybe we could talk about how each of us went vegan, what led to it. Would you like to start or would you like me to?
So yeah, I'll start. I went vegetarian when I was 30. And then I went vegan in 2011, 10 years ago. So yeah, 2011. So yeah, that's my kind of vegan story. It's very brief. So I've been vegan for about 10 years now. I've been vegetarian before that. I went vegetarian because I went on a school trip, basically. And on this school trip, they were pheasant shooting. And, it was really bad because these pheasants were basically shot from the sky. And it wasn't until they hit the ground and were hung that they actually died. So that was pretty horrific. And then after that, I went vegan because I was looking at this post about whether it was vegetarian to eat fertilized eggs. And under the post was a guy who said, who was vegan. He said what was more of an ethical issue was the fact that male chicks were killed at birth for egg production. So that was where I went vegan.
Yeah, and see, how I ended up going vegan was a very interesting story. Okay, so I was in an abortion debate group. Well, actually, first I had went vegetarian. Okay, I was vegetarian because I started having some changes in my life because I was losing my faith in Christianity and I had stopped going to church and I was reevaluating everything, thinking about everything. And one day I just became aware of when I was eating meat. I'm like, wait, an animal had to die for me to be eating this. And I went vegetarian. Like, I don't remember exactly what happened, but I just went vegetarian because at a certain point I just became aware, like, wait, I'm paying for the killing of animals by eating meat. And so I had that awareness. But then what ended up happening is I was in an abortion debate group. It was the worst group on Facebook ever, I swear. The uncensored abortion debate group. And so, I was talking about how I was pro-life and why, and people were getting all mad. And so somebody asked me if I was vegan. And I'm like, well, I don't know what that is, but I'm vegetarian, and they're like, well, then you're full of shit. And so yeah, so then I do some Google searches. I start doing some online searches for the word vegan, and I came across this book by Magnus Vining, Why We Should Go Vegan, and that book taught me about what was happening. That the dairy and the egg industry is like, I'm like, wait, oh yeah, cows are only producing their breast milk because it's meant to be fed to a baby calf. And I'm like, oh, we're drinking the breast milk of another species. And it hit me. And then about the male chicks being thrown into a grinder and killed because they're not going to lay eggs. And I realized, wait a minute. So even dairy and eggs, still it results in paying industries to kill animals because that's part of their process. That's the way it's done. that they kill the calf and sell it as veal, and then take the milk from the mother cow to sell to humans. And so that book taught me, I'm like, oh, I am full of shit, but I didn't know. Like I had never even seen the word vegan before, which is I had never even seen the word vegan before. And that was in like 2013. You know, I'd heard of people being vegetarian, but like then I started, you know, there's so much information about veganism. So I watched Earthlings, I watched Cowspiracy, What the Health, Forks Over Knives, Vegucated, and my favorite one of the ones I've seen is Speciesism, the movie. I like that.
I don't think I've seen that. No.
Yeah, and I haven't even watched all the vegan documentaries, and they're very hard to get through. They're very hard to get through because it's hard stuff to see.
Educated wasn't that bad, to be fair. I didn't think.
What? Which one?
Educated wasn't that bad.
Yeah, I don't remember which one that was because I've seen so many. But and of course, Earthlings was hard. I watched Earthlings, and that one is so sad, realizing all the different things. But the thing is, if I can't watch it because it emotionally disturbs me, then I sure don't want to be paying for them to be doing that to animals, do I? And that's the purpose of these vegan documentaries, of course, is realize this is what happens. And it's about people who care. If you're a person who cares about the suffering of these animals and what they're going through, and then you're aware that it's happening, then that recipe results in you going vegan. That's just the way it works, because I didn't want to hurt animals. And see, I was pro-life about abortion, and I didn't even want the unborn babies to be killed. And so, of course, at that moment, it was critical because that made me a hypocrite, although I didn't really realize it at the time until I read that book and understood what the implications were. But so if I justified killing animals, if I stayed a carnist, then I also had to give up my pro-life views about abortion. But if I retained my pro-lifism about abortion or killing humans in general at any age, then I also had to go vegan. So you see, that person who asked me if I was vegan and said that I was full of shit, they caused me to go vegan. That probably wasn't even their intention. Their intention was just to discourage me from being pro-life about abortion and just trying to tell me I was full of shit just to make me feel bad and scare me away. But it actually resulted in this conversion to veganism, and that resulted in a whole change of religious belief as well. Like, it was really freaky because I knew veganism was the way. I knew that I had to be vegan if I was to be pro-life. If I'm going to follow the golden rule, if I don't want to hurt others because I don't want to be hurt, well, then that means I have to be vegan. And then that leads to all kinds of problems, you know, especially since formerly I was a Christian. Like, I still believed in God for a while, but then it became a very tricky issue because, well, the God of the Bible clearly isn't vegan and commanded animal sacrifice, commanded the Israelites to kill certain types of animals as part of sacrifices. And the fundamental, my problem with the teaching of Christianity is the idea of the atonement, or like somebody has to die to pay the price for somebody's sins. And so the idea is a vegan would not approve of Jesus being crucified, would not approve of those animals being killed in those ritual sacrifices, just as they don't approve of it being done in factory farming or animal agriculture. So I swore nonviolence. I swore ahimsa. You know, I'm sure you probably know that word because ahimsa is the word that means nonviolence. So I swore nonviolence, and I swore celibacy for life, because I'm not taking any chance that anything I do could result in more animals being harmed. So it led to a whole change of lifestyle for me. Like, everything that I believed, everything I thought and felt just changed, because once you truly understand veganism and you understand nonviolence and you're committed to that, it's going to force a change in your religious beliefs. It's going to force a change in how you relate to certain family or friends who no longer support you and mock you for being vegan. You know, so it changed your whole life And so in a sense, as weird as it sounds, becoming an ethical vegan is like being born again. It's like a religion in and of itself, because it's an all-encompassing worldview is what it is. Because once you are committed to nonviolence and you're committed to doing the least harm that you can, as far as possible and practical, according to the definition on the Vegan Society, for example, which is a very good definition, just paraphrasing it, once you understand that, it changes your whole life. It changes everything. Like, seriously, people don't think about this, and it has implications for the rest of your life. Like for example, do vegans date or marry non-vegans? Well, some do. It doesn't end pretty. Like there are horror stories on Facebook.
I don't know though, because I mean, I don't think that veganism changes everything. I mean, I don't know. I hold views which I might see as connected to veganism in some way. I don't know. I mean, for example, I'm anti hormonal contraception, for example.
Yeah.
Because that's tested on animals and contains animal ingredients.
Yeah.
And I'm also against it because it has health ramifications for women.
Yes.
There's a number of health ramifications, such as it increases your risk of cancer and bone fractures, and what else? Yeah, so there's a number of issues from that.
Right.
But then again, like an anti-natalist would probably say that it's fine taking contraception because it will prevent babies from being born, and then
Yeah.
I don't know, but I mean, I think that there's always a case for everything being non-vegan and everything being vegan if you're widening it above the scope of veganism, if you see what I mean. And I don't know. I mean, with Jesus Christ dying on I'm not Christian, but with Jesus Christ dying on the cross, I find that the whole point of him dying on the cross was he died for everyone's sins. He died so that people could, I mean, if you're a Christian, you believe this. He died so that people could sin and then kind of atone for their sins, and then go to heaven. I mean, that was kind of the point. So it was like saving one person, sacrificing one person to save everyone, save the whole of humanity.
Right. Yeah. I see that. Yeah, because that's basically what they believe. But the thing about it is, why does somebody have to die in order for God to forgive the other humans? Like that's where I disagree with it. Why I'm not a Christian anymore, basically. But but I understand your message there. I understand what you're saying, though. It's the idea of this, like in that story, of course, it's God coming in the form of a man, choosing to sacrifice himself in a sort of a way. So in that way, you could still derive a lot of meaning from that. I just think that's unnecessary. But anyway. But yeah, like about the hormonal contraception. See, I'm anti-hormonal contraception too, because I'm aware of that it's not vegan. That first of all, animals are tested. Hormones are actually often extracted from animals. In some cases, so they're extracting hormones from animals. They were testing it on animals to test. Every new hormonal contraception drug is going to be tested on animals. So a vegan has to find so if somebody doesn't want to procreate, they have to find a vegan way to go about that. They have
there is like vegan condoms, there is contraceptive cups, there's natural family planning methods, and if you did all of those, you'd be 98% effective every year at preventing pregnancy. Yeah. But then that's compounded over the amount of years that you're having sex. So it's over 5 years, that's 10%. Over 10 years, that's 20%. And it just goes up. Right. Yeah. And so even if it's like
yeah, exactly. See, because even if you have everybody practicing a method or a group of methods that's 99% effective, let's say it's 99% effective, that means with billions of people having sex, and 1 out of every 100 people has an unwanted pregnancy, even though they're using contraception, that still results in a lot of unwanted pregnancy. And so I came to the conclusion for myself that being celibate was the only 100% way, and therefore the only, like, you know, it's vegan too. That's the thing. It's vegan too, you know. So it's just great. But at the same time, I don't want to give people the impression that that my vow of celibacy is some kind of sacrifice, some sort of noble thing like that, because quite honestly, I was already a virgin anyway, because quite honestly, I'm grossed out by the human body and I wouldn't have had sex anyway, you know. But that, because I'm already that way, already asexual, I guess that sort of just makes me automatically see celibacy as the solution. Whereas another person, like, they might say, well, let's just make.
For me, it's for example, I'm not I'm against sex before marriage. I'm not against sex in general.
Right. Yeah.
Like, so, and I think now that I'm 29 and I'm going on, I mean, I'll probably be in my 30s until when I get married. So I'll probably only have 1 child, and then maybe 2 if it kind of happens. But,
yeah, and that's the thing, is I know that most people are not like me. I have a very unique view, but the thing is, I hope that because you're a vegan, you understand everything about veganism, obviously. You will instill vegan values in your children if you do have children. And so you know, in that I wish you the best of luck with that. And I do hope that goes well if that happens. You know, I hope that your children truly understand that they stay vegan. I really hope that for you. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I have some pretty extreme views, and so that's why I wanted to do this live stream with you, because see, my views are so out there, so freaking out there, that nobody agrees with me. Like, I don't know of anybody who comes close to agreeing with me on, you know, let's just not have sex. Let's just be celibate. Although I do have my co-host Monique of the Celibate Vegan Voices. We actually do a podcast together, so that's interesting. But but most people don't agree with me on that. So the purpose of discussions, though, is for us to be making people aware of these issues. Like, people, for example, they may not have heard our unique perspectives of, like, the trans people in sports or bathrooms, or about, they may not realize, they may be someone who doesn't realize that hormonal contraception comes with health risks, and often involves animal abuse in the process of making those, you know. So people need to be aware of these issues, because, you know, knowledge is power. The more knowledge you have about issues, the more you're aware of different issues, the better choices you can make in your life. So by having people who debate and discuss things, you can learn a lot. Like, I used to listen to debates on the existence of God, for example. You know, there's something very interesting about listening to a debate between Christopher Hitchens and Dinesh D'Souza. Like, and I don't even know if you know who those guys are, but yeah, they're very interesting. And like, I like Christopher Hitchens, but unfortunately he wasn't vegan. You know, he said a lot of good stuff, you know, and he criticized religion and the violence that is often taught as part of religions, but even he himself wasn't vegan, so, you know, he had a blind spot. Or for example, Temple Grandin. Temple Grandin, I don't know if you've heard of her, but she is an autistic woman, and there's even a movie made about her life. And the thing is, with her, she's not vegan, but she at least made effort towards them trying to kill the cows in less painful ways when they kill them, which of course their suffering during their life is still so horrible. So obviously, I don't think it goes far enough. I think we need to be vegan if we really care about animals, obviously. But she did care about animals enough that she wanted to at least come up with better humane slaughter methods. So, you know, that's the thing, is it's not you know, I wish she was vegan. She's not, as last I knew, but she has some compassion there. And I think what we need to do is we need to work with people who have compassion. You can tell you when people have compassion, when they do care about things, you can work with that. You know, you can do that. Like for example, this works. Like it works with transgender issues. It works with racism, all forms of discrimination. Because like the way I like to say it is that speciesism is discrimination where you kill somebody or you're cruel to them because they look different than you. It's the same as racism. Like if someone's a different skin color than you and you kill them for that reason, it's the same with animals, you know. And I honestly do believe that racism, sexism, speciesism, these sorts of things where you're violent against someone just because of their body looks different than your own or whatever, you know, that's wrong regardless. And some people, they don't like that message. They don't like the message that I view everyone who's non-vegan the way that they view people who are obviously racist or sexist. Yet I believe it's the same. There is a difference, though. The difference in this case is that people who are not vegan and they're buying and eating animal products and wearing fur and leather and all that, they are not aware. They don't see the victims. They don't see the victims that they're paying to have, you know, beaten and skinned and killed and have their milk and eggs taken and all that. They don't see the victims, and that's why vegans have these documentaries to show them. And then people are like, oh no, it's too emotional. I don't want to look at that. And then it's like, well, if you don't want to look at it, then why are you paying for that to be done to the animals? It's like, and they just don't get it. They just don't get it. It's so sad. Some people do though. And those who do understand, even though not everybody does, are the ones who end up going vegan because they appreciate that the information was made aware to them. You know, they're made aware of what being vegan means. And that's important. We all need information. And we live in a time where information is being censored. It's like you say one thing, and then people want to ban you from their groups, and your profiles on social media get deleted, you know, because somebody didn't like something you said. Just like that vegan teacher. See, we both did our own videos on that, and it's like everyone's accusing her of being racist and transphobic and all that, and I'm like, I did not. I've listened to her videos. I looked at the screenshots that person sent me, and she did an interview with David Rams. David Rams on his YouTube channel interviewed that vegan teacher, and nothing she ever said actually came across as transphobic, homophobic, racist, or discriminatory in any way. And I'm like,
yeah, but that's one of the. So I just made a video on it's veganism and nationalism, and it was a response to Isaac Butterfield, and he clearly just doesn't understand what ethno-nationalism is, right? And he made and it was a bit ridiculous because he doesn't understand what ethno-nationalists believe, but he made a video about it. And so I explained in that video that what did I explain? I explained some of my issues with ethno-nationalism, and one is the focus on immigration and how it affects white people, and I understand it affects white people immigration. So, for example, there are issues with Muslim rape gangs, there are issues with the prices of wages getting lower because of the amount of immigration, and immigrants are willing to accept a lower price for their wages. But another issue I have is that it's all this focus on white people, but it's not the focus on, well, these immigrants are coming over and they're in communities of people of their own race, and they don't integrate within the wider community. They don't learn the language. And so there isn't much upward mobility. There's a lot of crime in that area, and that's often race on race. And so it's kind of, that's one of the issues that I have, is that ethno-nationalists, if you listen to them, they'll say a load of things about nationalism and how it affects white people, and that's fine. They have some radical ideas about immigration policy, it's fine, but that's not what's focused on. When they say, oh, we should get the N-words out of the country, that's what's focused on. And then they make whole videos you know, there's whole documentaries on nationalism, and it's all about like, oh, this person said get the N-words out of the country. It's not anything about like actually what nationalists believe and why their beliefs are wrong. It's like, oh, well, they said something racist. And that is exactly what's happening with a vegan teacher, is that she said like the N-word in her video, or she writ the N-word down in her video, and that's what's getting focused on. It's not actually anything about veganism. And so I think that you need to avoid controversial language when you're talking about issues, particularly, I would say, immigration, veganism, anything else, because what will end up happening is that will get focused on, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's not.
People, you use a certain word, they don't care about the context, like, oh, you used a bad word, you're a bad person, you know, I care about the content of what someone's saying, for example. Like, for example, I don't really like the F word, fuck, I'm not afraid to say that word, but I don't like that word because of what it means. Okay. But when someone's, when one of my vegan friends is gonna like, oh, I am so fucking mad at carnists and all that sort of thing, I don't take it literally. I just understand they're angry, and when you're angry, you use words that in your better judgment wouldn't use. I've used the F word sometimes because I was just so angry, because I hear people talk that way and I pick up the bad habit. But it's not about the words, it's about the message. What is the person actually trying to say? So I don't want language police. I don't want people like, oh, you used a bad word, therefore you're not my friend anymore, and I'm gonna unsubscribe to you and report you for harassment. Like it's weird how people do that. So I think we need to listen to content on what people are saying. And you that word you used, ethnonationalism, is that what the word that you were talking about? Yeah. And I hadn't heard that word. I know nationalism. Like I know.
Well, okay. So by definition, I'm a civic nationalist, which means that if you come to the country, you should integrate within the wider society. Now, I have a few issues because I've listened to nationalist speakers and then I don't exactly agree with everything that they say. So it's kind of very different. I'm against mass immigration. I think that's all I'll put on it, because I'm not someone who, like a patriotic alternative member who is, going around saying the N-word and all this other stuff, and they have, they want to deny education to immigrant children who can't speak English. I don't know. All I'm going to say is I'm against mass immigration.
Yeah. Well, and immigration is itself another one of those vast, wide, controversial topics, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, like, I can see both sides of that as well. Because on one hand, my belief is that I'm an American, okay, because I was born here. I was born in Merriam, Kansas, in the United States of America. That doesn't mean that I'm more valuable or that I have more of a right to be here than someone who lives in some other country and who wants to move here, who wants to immigrate here. So I always start with that, because obviously, I'm not more important, I'm not better just because I was born on a particular chunk of land. So, of course, I think people should be allowed to immigrate, but I also see the other side of it, and that, you can't just say, all right, everybody who wants to come in. I get that. I get that you can't just have, I guess what you were calling mass immigration, where just let everybody come in the country, because people are concerned about that because, from what I understand, there's a process of immigration. They do background checks. They try to make sure that somebody coming in doesn't have a criminal record. They have to go through a legal process to immigrate into the country. As far as I understand, I'm no expert in the field, obviously, but I think so. I can respect all opinions on immigration, I guess, except where someone says, well, you were born in Mexico, therefore you must stay in Mexico your whole life because you belong in that land because you were born there, or some crazy shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Because honestly, I don't see, to me, traveling from one country's border across it to another is no different than going from Missouri to Kansas, in my mind. You're just going from one location to another. And see, in America, we're allowed to go in the 50 states, but we're still considered a citizen, even though, like, I'm in Missouri now, which is not the same state I was born in, yet people don't treat me like I'm not a citizen, that I'm an illegal immigrant or something. So it's just weird.
Yeah, but I mean, it would be like me moving to, let's say, I don't know, Scotland or something, for example. I'm not Scottish, I'm English. But then me and, well, Scottish people and English people have a very similar culture.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point. And what tends to happen is when you integrate people from, when you immigrate people from a different race into your own country, they naturally segregate into people that are the same race as them. So you have, communities of people from Pakistan, you have communities of people from India, you have communities from people of China, and so on. And the reason that you have these communities is because people like to be with people of their own race.
Yeah.
And then that's an issue in terms of upward mobility. It's an issue in terms of the crime rate in that area. It's an issue in terms of that they don't learn the language. I think there's also kind of issues with the fact that the majority of our population growth is due to immigration. And I think that, I don't know, I think that British culture is important. And I think that having British culture is important. And so it's very hard for people to take on those British values if there's so many people coming in at once.
Yeah.
So the whole culture of the society changes over time.
Yeah. Also, we're getting a lot of comments here. I don't know. Can you see the comments on your end?
No.
Oh,
no,
okay. I'll share it with some. So
God.
So like here we have this one. How long you been vegan for? What made you go vegan? Do you guys read and respond to comments? And so I want to tell you, this person named Plants. Their name is Plants. Yes, actually, we did talk about what made us go vegan earlier in this video. So you'll be able to go back and watch from the beginning, because we're about an hour in and we have comments. Yeah, I agree about the sports issue with Chandler. That's fair.
Nice.
That's fair to hear both sides. Good idea. I'm pro-life too. Yo, Chan, what it do, comrade? Love you, man. I'm from Sri Lanka. Don't drink alcohol. Yeah. I see. Thank you for responding. Like, this is cute. See, this is why I love StreamYard, because like I can do okay, but so far the best comment is, I love this one. Yo, Chan, what it do, comrade? It's like, yeah, totally.
Do you know these people, or are they just random people?
Well, actually, some of them I know. For example, this is my sister, Charity Crosby. And
okay.
Yeah, that's actually my sister. And Neo-Skeptic, he's a little bit more mysterious, okay? But he used to be a main commenter on my videos. I haven't heard from him for a while, but yeah. And then we have some complete stranger from Sri Lanka, and yeah, and then we have Plants. Hey, yeah, someone just named Plants. So I'm guessing they probably are a vegan, because they're curious about when we went vegan. So they named themselves Plants, because that's what vegans eat.
Plants, when did you go vegan?
Yeah. Well, let's ask you when you went vegan, because it said I searched vegan plus live and this popped up. So they just did a search and they found our live stream. That is so cool. So we'll see if they comment with when they went vegan. See, I love this experience. This is why I love StreamYard, because I see comments. I can put them up on the screen so that everyone can see them, and then I can respond. It works great that way, because
that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I've never used this platform before. I normally do. I don't know why, but I normally do like debates on Skype, and then I'll record it and then I'll put it up.
Yeah, StreamYard. This is actually used by David Rams. David Rams is a famous vegan YouTuber. He's the one who interviewed that vegan teacher, and he uses StreamYard.
I've seen David Rams.
Yeah, so then when I saw that he was using StreamYard, I Googled it, and I'm like, oh, cool, this is nice. StreamYard is such a nice service to use. It runs on your web browser. People can join from their computers or even their phones. Sometimes people have. And we have a reply here. I'm not vegan. I'm a carnivore. Nah, just kidding. I'm vegan. Have I went vegan in late 2017? I
okay.
Went. Yeah.
You've been vegan for 4 years then.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty freaky, you know. And you know, I find it interesting because there's all these stereotypes about vegans, like that vegan. Okay, first of all of the vegans that I have seen in my life are good looking and healthy, and you're like, I'm serious. Like, not that, you know, of the people that I've been able to actually see, you know, I find all my vegan friends on social media, that sort of thing. But as far like, I don't see weak, unhealthy vegans typically. I'm sure there are unhealthy vegans that are weak, and the stereotypes like the carnists like to try to make fake versions of us, and they try to say vegans don't get any protein that are weak. It's like
my boyfriend, we did a weighing thing. So we weighed ourselves and we did our height, and his BMI is almost like obese. It's on the line of being obese.
Yeah.
He's been vegan for 5 years.
Interesting. So yeah, but of course, you know, people can be unhealthy and people can be obese being vegan. They can, you know, and the thing is, you know, like, I want to be a good example of health. You know, I want to be a good example because I don't want people that I have to be healthy. I feel like to be an example that vegans can be healthy for that purpose. And, you know, here's what's funny is when I was a kid, I used to get this idea, you know what, I'm going to be big and strong, you know, and I always wanted to see how much I could lift, and I was always cared about being strong, and that was my big thing. But here's the funny part of it. The funny part is that I have always been I've always been smaller than other biological males, and I was like, when I was 12 years old, I was 80 pounds. I was like the smallest of everyone my age, you know. And so it was really crazy. So here I was, like this scrawny, weak-looking kid, even though I was fairly strong because I worked out and I did a lot of exercise. But unfortunately, I meet the stereotype of the soy boy, you know, the feminine male that veganism will turn men into women, that sort of thing. And I'm like, well, no, it's just because I personally am a tranny. That doesn't mean that every male who goes vegan is going to turn into a woman or that sort of thing. I just happen to be a special case, you know. Oh, and speaking of which, I have reclaimed the word tranny because I think it's cute. Think about it. You call your grandmother granny. You know what I'm saying? Grandmother, granny, transgender, tranny. You get it? It's just a short way of saying transgender, but yet some people. Oh, and here's the best part about the word tranny is that it can be short for either transgender, transsexual, or a transvestite. So you can be any of those three things, and you could be a tranny. So it's a really cute, convenient way. Now, I don't call anybody else a tranny, but I can call myself whatever I want to. So that's the deal. Yeah.
You sound quite a bit like Blair White, because Blair White reclaimed the word tranny.
Oh, yeah, I know Blair White. Yeah, Blair White.
Oh, you know her?
Well, I mean, not personally. I mean, I follow her YouTube channel, which is pretty much the same thing. Because what can you not know?
I thought you met her or something.
No, I haven't been that lucky. But yeah, I have followed her YouTube channel and many other transgender YouTubers. And there are actually a few other vegan trans women actually. I think Maya Henry is one, but I haven't seen so far today. I haven't seen a transgender person who actually promotes ethical veganism. They're usually doing it for health reasons, that sort of thing, typically, you know. But I got the idea that what the world really needs is it needs the ultimate ethical vegan trans woman. That's what it needs. So I may be that person, but it's very interesting. But we have more comments actually. Let's see. You're right, and that's why some animal rights activists started lifting Earthling Ed and Joey Carbstrong, for example. Yeah, so they're responding to what I said about vegans wanting to be a healthy, strong example. They also eat a healthy diet, and they look great. Yeah, totally. Like for example, have you seen the documentary The Game Changers? Like that?
Oh no, I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh man, I bought that on iTunes and I watched that, and like it was actually pretty cool. You know, there are these athletes, they eat only a vegan diet, but they'll be like these bodybuilders, or they'll be people who participate in other sports. Like, for example, Serena Williams is a tennis player, is a black woman that's a tennis player, but she's vegan. You know, and there are people that are vegan athletes and actors in movies that you didn't know were vegan. Oh, for example, Tara Strong. Tara Strong, I don't know if you've heard of her. You probably have. Okay, Tara Strong is a voice actress for some of the characters in My Little Pony. And do you know that show, My Little Pony?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't really. I heard it's actually quite good because it's got adult jokes in it, and it's a bit more like kind of Shrek or something like that now.
Well, yeah.
Like fighting ponies.
Yeah, well, here's what's interesting about My Little Pony. Like there was two series, okay, because there was the series from the 1980s, but then there's in 2000. The new one, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. That is like my favorite show. It's my favorite show. I've probably seen every episode. It finally ended, but yeah, so it has like these six main, they call them the main six, MANE, the main six, because mane like a horse's hair. And so there's Twilight Sparkle, Rainbow Dash, Applejack, Fluttershy, Rarity, and I think I mentioned them all. I could, but there's supposed to be six of them, and it's sort of like Sesame Street, but with ponies. Is what it's like, okay? Because it actually teaches kids moral values about friendships and how to resolve friendship conflicts. And at the end of every episode, Twilight Sparkle, who's kind of the main character, writes to Princess Celestia, and Princess Celestia is like the ruling princess or queen of Equestria, the Ponyland. You know, it's really cute. It's super cute. But then they also have episodes where they'll have monsters that they fight with their magic. Nobody actually ever gets hurt, though. It's basically a cartoonish, very it's barely PG. That's what we're talking about. Like, it's mostly G, barely PG in some cases. But the show is targeted toward little girls. You know, typically it's meant to teach moral values and be an entertaining show for kids. That's what it's for. But it's my favorite show because, first of all, I love horses. Horses are my absolute favorite animal. And, you know, unicorns and Pegasuses and all those things are just special magical versions of horses. So that's why I love that show. But Tara Strong, one of the voice actors, is actually vegan. She's vegan and she has two kids, and she also did the voice of Bubbles in the Powerpuff Girls.
That's interesting.
So it's interesting. So I happen to know people because of cartoons I watch. Like another person, I don't know if this person is vegan or not, but have you heard of Mia Farrow? Have you heard of that?
No.
Well, the reason I know who Mia Farrow is because she was the voice actor of the unicorn in the movie The Last Unicorn. So I'll typically know the voice actors because I'm a nerd of some of these cartoons. It's very interesting, and so I like it because I think what this world needs is it needs more positive influence. It needs more, like, there are some good cartoons for kids. There are good educational shows for kids. There's shows promoting good moral values, you know, and like, for example, some shows not so much, like, you know, Dragon Ball Z, for example. I happen to like that show, but it's not exactly the kind of show that I would show to kids because, you know, it's a bunch of muscle-bound dudes fighting these evil aliens and villains that are trying to take over the world. So it's like a Superman type of superhero type of thing. You know, you have Goku, and like he's like the strongest person in the universe basically, and there's always some evil villain, and then he beats him up, and they go away. You know, so it's not exactly kid friendly, and there is violence. But I happen to like that show because they throw a lot of humor in there. Or then there's Sailor Moon, another cartoon I like. Sailor Moon is weird because it has these teenage girls, and they have their lives, and they hang out with their friends, and then they're always looking for some guy to date who they think is hot, which that part's weird. But then along comes some villain that's trying to do something bad. So then they just blast them with their magic wands, you know, all that sort of stuff, like moon, gorgeous, meditation. And then the villain just goes away. You know, it's like, okay, I like it. I like that show. So anyway, I didn't mean to get too sidetracked, but yeah, I like cartoons.
Okay,
I like some cute things.
The ones I like are Regular Show and Adventure Time. They're the two I watch quite a lot.
Adventure Time. I have
and Regular Show.
Regular Show?
Yeah, it's a cartoon with a can't remember the animals now, but I think it's got like a raccoon and a some kind of foxy thing.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of Regular Show. What an interesting title.
It's kind of random though, because it's like they're working in a park and everything's normal, and then it ends up like really weird stuff starts happening.
Yeah,
that's basically what happens. It's like they're watching TV, and then the TV like comes alive and starts like trying to kill them and stuff.
Yeah,
it's really random.
Yeah, you know, there are so many very interesting cartoons and movies. Like I've watched a lot of movies in my time. You know, a lot of interesting things. Like, for example, of course, The Last Unicorn remains my favorite of all the movies. There was a lot of deep meaning in that movie. It was very popular. But then I also love the Bill and Ted movie series. Have you ever seen?
Oh, yeah, they're pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, first one was Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures or whatever, where they time travel.
Have you seen the new one?
Yes, Face the Music.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yes, that one. Like, I feel like you kind of need to see the first two to understand the third one, but that third one, Face the Music, is the best. Like, it's the best because you have everyone uniting all space and time with the song that everyone joins in together, and they give musical instruments to everyone throughout all history. So everyone is all playing in different time periods, and they have this instrumental song that's really cool. So like, I liked it so much I bought the soundtrack.
That's pretty cool. Did you actually thought I thought the first one was probably the best one though, I'm gonna tell.
Yeah, I mean, the first one was great. Yeah, because you have to see the first one first. You really do. To understand, because then you see like Bill and Ted when they're like teenagers in high school, and they have a history report, and so that's why they end up time traveling, so they can bring all these characters from the past and as part of their history report. You know, and they have George Carlin being the character Rufus in that movie, which is so cool. But then. Yeah, I mean, that one was great. I mean, time travel. It doesn't get much better than time travel movies. Of course, I probably should tell you about the time traveling grandma. Okay, there was this movie. Okay, there was this weird movie. It's called When Marnie Was There. Okay. Yeah, and you can buy it on YouTube. It's like this cartoon movie. So it's a really weird movie. There's this girl who likes to draw, but she's sort of shy. She doesn't have many friends, and she has low self-esteem and all that.
Okay.
But she ends up having this friend. Of course, I may spoil the whole plot of the movie for you. So spoiler alert. So she ends up having this friend that she meets named Marnie. But here's the thing is, it's mysterious though, because she doesn't really know who this Marnie is, and you end up finding out at the very end of the movie that Marnie is actually this girl's dead grandmother. It's the ghost of her dead grandmother. But when her grandmother was a girl the same age as this teenager or whatever.
Okay, that's really weird.
Yeah, so that's the time traveling grandma. So that's the funny. It's a dead time traveling grandma, and the funny thing about this, okay, this is where it gets really funny. Is I read this comment. So people in the comments were saying, well, this looks like a lesbian movie. Like, because they try, they try to turn it into, because these girls that are great friends and they do all these things, they talk. So then people tried to say that it was a lesbian movie, and then somebody said, there was this comment I will never forget. This is the best YouTube comment ever. They said, I feel like the producers realized that this movie was just a little bit too gay, so then they added the time traveling grandma backstory. so like I don't know, man. The comments are always better than the movie. Why are the comments better than the movie? Like, what's up with that? The comments.
Well, it all depends on what kind of how good a movie you watch, though. I have to say, like. Yeah.
I can tell you a few movies that you don't want to watch. I've seen a few movies that I don't recommend because they're scary as hell. Like, there was this one horror movie I watched. Let's see, what was it called? In the Mouth of Madness. Yeah, that was scary. But the reason I watched it was because I saw a video review of it, and they were talking about the meaning, and it was interesting. It was very interesting, but it was also scary, and I don't want to ever see it again. So there's things like that. But yeah, I mean, anyway, but yeah, I got sidetracked onto movies and cartoons and stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see, but I think there was something else. What else were we going to talk about? There was something I had in my mind that we hadn't discussed yet. Any?
Okay, because I think yeah, we should probably get back to veganism and politics, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. Now, on your YouTube channel, you describe yourself as a right-wing vegan. Can you define what that means?
Well, I'm a centre-right vegan, so I'm right-wing. I would say I'm socially right-wing, and I'm probably more politically right-wing as well. So in terms of my political views, I have quite strong views on immigration. I'm against mass immigration. I would say I'm more sexually conservative. So I don't believe in sex before marriage. I don't believe in hormonal contraception. I think that women's sports should stay women's sports. I think I didn't really discuss this with you, but I think that probably restaurants and changing rooms, they should probably open up a separate set of changing rooms for families and trans people to use. I think that probably solve a lot of issues.
Yeah, I think some places do that actually.
Mm.
Yeah.
It was really weird because there was someone on Pink News, and in what was it called? Centre Parks. So in Centre Parks, they've actually opened up a separate unit for families and for trans people to use. And then a trans woman was complaining that she had to use this separate changing room. And I was like, that's a bit silly.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't see a problem. Why would somebody be upset that they had a special room designed for people like them that don't conform to traditional male or female? Like, they should be happy. They should be grateful, not pissed off about it. Like,
and the other thing is, you've got non-binary people, you've got like intersex people. It's like a whole thing.
yeah, seriously, it's coming. Oh, and also your video about kids should not transition. Like, yeah, I watched your video on that, and here's the thing: is people are gonna have different opinions on this topic, but here's how I feel. Like, I feel like there's a certain age. Like, obviously, I think that, you know, if you have a transgender kid that's 3 years old and they're saying that they're the other gender, I don't think at that time that we should be giving puberty blockers or hormones. Obviously, you can wait. You can wait. They're young. They haven't hit puberty yet, so you can wait, that kind of thing. I personally do think, though, that there may be certain instances where somebody can be evaluated to know that they really are transgender, to have evaluations. Like, some people are going to call me transphobic for this. They're going to call me transphobic. I'm prepared for it. But I totally think it's okay to see a counselor, a psychologist, to a child who is expressing that they want to be they want to be a different gender than what they were born as. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with them having therapy, not to convert them and force them to accept their birth sex or whatever, or anything like that. Just to evaluate, like, okay, so how do you feel about this? Just to see, because I think that we need to make sure that before a person, takes puberty blockers or hormones or has surgeries, that they know what they're getting into. You know what I'm saying? So obviously, I can understand that you don't want to do sex reassignment surgery on a 10-year-old and then have the person later like, oh wait, that's not what I wanted. So we need to be careful with this topic, and I understand that, of course, but I also think that there are people who do know what they want, and they might be 15 or 16, and if they have a means to pay for puberty blockers, hormones, or some type of surgery, I think that they shouldn't be legally prevented from having that done. But I do think we need to still have steps in place to make sure that not everybody who decides that they want to transition to one gender or another, all of a sudden just does that and then later on regrets it. So I feel like there's a balanced view here. You know what I'm saying? Because like, for example, I personally strongly wish that I could have had my testicles removed before puberty, so that I could have kept a higher pitched voice, and so I didn't have to go through male puberty and grow facial hair and all that sort of thing, because that still makes me sad. But so I think there are cases where some people, that is really what's best for them, but I don't think a certain law of a certain age, or I think it's a case by case basis. Everything should be evaluated. I just don't think that we should necessarily. Yeah.
So I don't really agree with that, because I think once you're 18, you can choose what you want to do with your body.
Yeah.
I think that's up to you. But then before the age of 18, I don't know. I mean, even at the age of 18. I remember Blair White was talking about having kids, and she's been on hormones for a very, very long period now, because she went on them at the age of, I think, 20. And so when she was 20, she didn't want to have kids, her own biological children. Now she's like 27. It's a whole different ball game. It's a whole different situation. She wants children now, and I think it's really weird, because it's so controversial. People getting a vasectomy at young age, but then it's not controversial to have a sex change at a young age. It's kind of weird that it's kind of odd for me.
Yeah, I get what you're
You
saying.
can easily change your mind.
Yeah, it's a very strange thing because, see, here's the thing. Like, I do, yeah, I think we need to be careful because, see, here's the thing now. On one hand, I would like to just agree that, you know, people can just wait till they're 18, till they're legally an adult. However, the one thing that really bothers me is that before you're 18 years old, you already have puberty even before that. And so you're going to grow facial hair. You're going to grow if you're, you know, if you're born male, you're going to grow facial hair. If you were born female, you might end up growing huge boobs and then later need surgery to remove them, you know. And so what I'm saying is puberty, that's why they do puberty blockers. I believe that's the reason they do the puberty blockers. But here's the thing, and that's controversial too, of course. And of course, we need to consider the health aspect of this, because because there may be health consequences of messing with people's hormones. And there's enough. This relates to veganism too, because like, first of all, if I take hormones, I want it to be from a vegan source. I want it to be, you know, extracted from plants and not come from the body of some animal. You know what I'm saying? So it relates to, are puberty blockers or transgender hormones given, are they vegan? And some are, some are not. You have to do your research, that sort of thing, perhaps. And also, do people have the option of choosing which? So there's that aspect of it too. But another thing that's very interesting is that people don't hesitate to spay and neuter their dogs and cats or other pets, you know. But you know, they do that because they figure, well, if they spay and neuter their pets and they sterilize them, well, then those animals, they won't be going around reproducing all these puppies that will end up being killed in a shelter, you know, that sort of a thing. So I understand that, but they apply a different standard to humans, which is weird to me. Like,
well, it's because you're not choosing for someone else. You're choosing for yourself.
Yes. See, there is a difference there.
And so what I would choose, I don't know. I mean, when I was 18, I wasn't really interested in having kids.
Yeah.
It was only until like maybe my late 20s that I became interested in having kids.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, giving vasectomies or tying the tubes to someone at the age of 18. I mean, okay, but those people could change their mind and then regret their choice, which happens quite a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why a lot of surgeons don't offer that kind of service.
Yeah, it's very strange because yeah, see, here's the thing, like, yeah, there is a difference between choosing something for yourself and choosing something for a dog or a cat. But, and like with the spaying and neuter pets, I can see both sides of it, because there are going to be some people who choose to sterilize their pets so that they don't procreate and have baby animals that have no home for them. But at the same time, I can understand those who don't do that because they can't obtain the animal's consent to have that done to them. So I can understand that side. So I can see both sides of that. That's one of those things I can see both sides, and respect both people's opinions, because it's sort of tricky either way. But yeah, when it comes to humans, it's an interesting thing because I had to fight. I really had to fight to get someone to do surgery or remove my testicles. It was very tough because I kept going to doctors and talking to people and saying that I really need this done, but it was mostly for reasons of pain, because I was having chronic testicle pain. So there was that aspect of it. But I had to convince people that this is what I want. You know, I had to convince people, and I was finally able to have the insurance to pay for it and have that done in September 17, you know, just 2020, just last year. But people hesitate. Yeah, they do hesitate to do that because, well, yeah, it is a permanent thing. But then again, at the same time, obviously, I was an adult, you know, 33 years old. So I'm pretty sure I know what I want. So I think there's a difference, you know, obviously a 10-year-old and a 30-year-old, may not see things the same way. The same person when they're 10 may think one way, like, oh, I don't ever want to have kids, and then they might change their mind later on. So that's why I think there needs to be counseling. There needs to be evaluation by a psychologist, because people need to be made to understand, well, this is permanent. And once you do this, you can't go back,
Yeah, but I just don't think that 10-year-olds really understand that kind of sense of permanence.
Yeah. I don't think they do. But that's the thing about it, is I guess that's why.
I mean, there have been people that have gone on puberty blockers, then they've gone on hormones, and then they've decided that they wanted to be the gender they were born with, and they've ended up with a really deep voice.
Yeah.
And they've ended up with not growing boobs properly, or having to have boobs removed, and it's kind of
because that is true. See, it can go wrong either way, because if we don't allow transgender people to do transition, or at least have blockers during puberty, well, then there's going to be people who really are transgender and really do want to be the opposite, but then they'd be forced to undergo their birth sex puberty, which they have to suffer the rest of their life because of that. But on the other hand, like you said, it's the opposite can also happen. Somebody could transition and then realize, wait, no, I want my birth sex back. I want to be that way. Then they're at a bad situation, because then they have changes that are hard to reverse sometimes. And it's also different between trans men and trans women, because, like, for example, like a trans man, like a born female who wants to be male, they can get away with waiting longer. They can get away with waiting longer because they can wait till they're 30, and then they can, even though it's expensive, they can have a mastectomy, have their breasts removed. They can go on testosterone, grow facial hair, and they can still achieve a life where they look like a man. You would never know the difference. They can do that. But with trans women, it's not the same. So, for example, I'll always have broad shoulders. I'll always have a male-sounding voice, and I have to suffer with that because I had to go through male puberty, and that was bad for me because it doesn't represent me. But of course, that wasn't because of laws preventing transition. That was because my mom and I grew up poor. Even if it was allowed, there was no money. All we had was Medicaid. So, and it wouldn't have been an option anyway. But that's what I'm saying is, I have mixed feelings about it because I very much strongly want to prevent people who are born male from being forced to go through male puberty against their will, because that can be very frightening for other people with a similar mindset. Mm-hmm. Some people commit suicide because they can't handle it.
I mean, I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm worried about children as well, because it seems like parents are kind of getting very confused by the fact that there are a lot more trans youths now than there were ever before in history. And that's kind of weird to me. And I think that parents kind of get confused because their kids will play with girls' toys when they're little. Yeah. But then it might just be that they're going to be a girly boy or something, or a tomboy. Yeah. And it's like you don't really have that like tomboyness anymore. It's like you're trans.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying because, for example, I have a friend who, well, she back in her day, she would have been called a tomboy. She played sports with her brother. She was always very, very, very masculine. So that sort of thing. But yeah, someone like that today is not a tomboy. All of a sudden they're a trans man. So I get what you're saying. And then if you're a boy who plays with girls' toys and stuff like that, well then of course that's always different anyway, because it's always been more socially acceptable for girls to act like boys than it was for boys to act like girls, and that's weird. Yeah. Like it's sort of strange because and women can wear pants, but men, if they wear a dress, they'll get beat up. So there's that, and that's pure sexism right there. So what I personally think is that if we lived in a world where people weren't sexist and they treated males and females equally, people wouldn't feel the need to transition as much. They wouldn't really feel that need, you know? And so, and some people are stronger than others. Some people, they really can't handle the fact that they were born in the wrong body, and they commit suicide over it, and it's very tragic. Other people like me are a little bit different, because now I've been suicidal in the past, but that wasn't really related to my transgenderness. That was because of other emotional issues, abuse in my childhood, that sort of thing, that got me depressed, feeling like my life was worthless. But but at the same time, I'm someone who, I get sad sometimes, because I have women, like, I can tell out in public, or even people that I've known personally, women who are attracted to me because I look like a man and they think I'm a good looking man. And I know that a real man would take that as a compliment, and they'd be like, yeah, I'm a man, I'm a sexy dude. You know, that's what they would do. That would boost their self-esteem. But when I can tell that other people see me that way, it makes me very deeply sad. It makes me sad in a way that is hard to express. It's very strange. I don't know. But yeah, so I'm sad about the fact that I wasn't born in a female body, but I'm also strong enough and that I go on and live my life the best I can. And I care more about vegan activism and helping the animals and creating beautiful art, you know, and a lot of things. But I understand a lot of issues perhaps that some people don't understand, because I understand the problems with speciesism and sexism in an interesting way that not everybody can understand my unique perspective. And you can tell that I have a unique perspective. I try to look at both sides of these issues. And so other people, they'll take your video about kids not transitioning, and they'll call you transphobic. And I won't call you transphobic. I understand your concerns about that issue. And then somebody else, like, okay, so somebody I know
I just wanted to say that I remember when I was at uni, and this was the start of my second year. So the start of my second year, there was a girl, a trans woman, who I was attracted to as a man. And it was kind of really weird, because I met her like once as a man, and I was like, oh, it's it's like, I thought like there might be something there. And then it was kind of really weird, because she told me that she was a trans woman, and I was like, oh, okay, we'll just be friends then. But it was funny, because when someone's attracted to you, right, they're not just attracted to, especially with women, they're not just attracted to the way that you look, they're attracted to your personality.
Yeah.
So it's actually you as a person. So I would try not to take it like personally that they're attracted to you as a man, because they're not just attracted to you as a man, they're attracted to you as your personality. Does that make sense?
Well, that's true. It's actually, I'm glad you said that, because it could be, you could be right. There may be cases where I'm misinterpreting it, and I think it's because I look like a man that they are attracted to me because of my body. But it could be my personality, the way I treat them, the way I talk. Something about my personality might be actually why they like me. And if I think about it that way, rather than just assuming that it's because of the way I look, maybe I won't feel so bad, you know, because I don't know for sure what's going on in people's heads.
Yeah, but with women, they don't, I would say the majority of women, they don't go on looks as much as men do.
Yeah, well, I would hope not, because most men are so ugly. Like, I don't know what's up with that, but well, of course, a lot of men are drinking beer and eating meat and all that stuff too.
Yeah,
so maybe that's why they're so ugly, because maybe I'm just better looking than the most biological males because I've been vegan so long. Maybe that's why. I don't know.
But it's not, women don't tend to go on looks as much as men.
Yeah. In fact, you know what? My mom said the same thing before. She said that women care more about how men treat them than how they look, and what's weird about it, and this is what's so weird to me, is when you grow up being socialized as a man and you're around, like I've been around other boys and men all my life, just because that's where I'm placed with them, and I was even in the Navy. And the Navy was pretty bad. Some of the stuff I heard other men say about women in church was pretty bad, and so I came to understand that other men, at least the way they talk, is they just see some woman and they instantly talking about wanting to have sex with her. They don't know anything about her. They don't know her religious belief. They don't know whether she's vegan or not. They don't know what her plans are for her life. They don't know her talents or hobbies. They don't know anything about her. And yet they see her body and say she's hot and that they want to have sex with her. Although they don't say it that way. They use the F word instead. That's usually what they say. But so being around other males and hearing them talk that way, it's like, how sad. How sad that they're not able to care about the person because they're so horny, basically.
But they've done academic studies on this, and they did an academic study where they went to a college campus and they asked 100 men if, like, they had a woman asking 100 men if he would sleep with them, and 70% of the men said yes. Right? They did the same opposite way round with a woman, with a man asking women, and only one woman said yes. So it's a significant difference there.
Yes.
And it kind of shows that the way that men choose sexual partners is based on mainly looks.
Yeah.
The way that women choose sexual partners is based on the actual person. It's based on a lot more than that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting, and I think it's important to remember that that everyone really should go by personality more, because a personality is more likely to stay the same than a person's body. Because when someone's 60 years old, they don't look the same as they did when they were 20.
No.
People's bodies change all the time, and they're not always going to look so good as what you might be attracted to physically. But a person's soul, who they are, their beliefs, what they value, that kind of thing is more likely to stay the same. And so I wish more people would do that, And I've been given a gift because I don't care about how people look. I don't even care enough about how I look, in fact, because there are always people who critique me about my appearance and how I present myself in my videos, that sort of thing. But because I see the inner beauty of people and I listen to what they actually say, I'm able to see a person's personality, whereas most biological males my age can't do that. They can't do that because all they're doing is looking at someone's body, the external, that all they care about is their body. So I can see things that they can't, and I wish they could see it.
I don't know. It's kind of, when you're a woman and you're attracted to men, it's kind of difficult, because you find that, especially after pregnancy, your body completely changes, and then you're like, you kind of have to worry about getting old, and then you have to worry about like your body changing when you get pregnant, and I don't know. It's like,
yeah.
I don't know. There's so many concerns when you're a woman, because you kind of, that men are much more based on looks than women are.
Yeah, and whereas with men it's different, because they can be as ugly as they want and nobody cares. So
exactly.
So there's that benefit to it. So I'll just look at the positive. I'll just look at the positive that nobody's really going to care too much how I look. I don't have that same sort of pressure on me, But
yeah,
it's funny. But yeah, see, this is what I like. See, you understand why I contacted you to do a live stream now. You get it. because see, you have such great topics you talk about in your videos, and we've talked about several things. We've talked about veganism, we've talked about transgender issues, we've talked about nationalism, we've talked about movies and cartoons. Like, there's so many amazing things to talk about. And I like this. I wish I could get more people to do this sort of thing, to be able to talk about these kinds of issues. You know, but some people, they are afraid. They'll either be too afraid to be on camera. They'll be afraid of how they look to people, or they'll be afraid, well, if I put my views out there, my opinions too much, then people might they might think I'm racist or transphobic if I talk about this, so then I'll lose subscribers and my reputation will be ruined, you know, that sort of thing. So the problem is that people, they care about how they appear to the world. They care about how they appear, not only physically, but how they appear with the things they say. So what they do is they filter. They're like, you know what I'm talking about? The people who are like, they're typing a message and like, oh no, I can't say that. Someone will call me transphobic. Or they're like, oh no, can't say that. Someone will say I'm racist. Oh no, people will think I'm of this religion if I say this. And you know what? I used to think about things like that, but eventually I just stopped caring. And for me, like for example, recently, I've realized that I called myself an atheist for a long time, but now I'm not really so sure about that anymore. And most people would not admit that kind of thing, but I'm questioning a few things because, like, I left Christianity because I don't believe in that concept of God and that religion, that sort of thing. But now I'm thinking about a whole different set of things. I'm thinking that a lot of things, like I'm thinking, well, you know, there's a lot of things I don't know and a lot of things I can't explain. And I'm open to the possibility of reincarnation, or that there's some sort of life after death, that idea. Like, because now I just kind of think like, I don't know, but now I think about the possibility. Whereas before, I feel like I accepted, I guess, first, I was forced into the idea that I had to accept Christianity as a package. Like, you have to believe the whole Bible is all literal truth, and you have to believe all these stories in the Bible happened and that Jesus died for your sins. So I felt like I was being told I had to accept that. But then I mistakenly accepted the worldview of a lot of atheists, like, you know, materialistic, like, you know, there's no supernatural and all these things, and that science has the answers to everything. But there are things that happen that show me, well, maybe that's not the case. And so I'm not making any claims, but most people would not even admit they were questioning some of these things because it's taboo. You know, not that I have much credibility to protect. I mean, I get kicked out of every social group there is because people, you know, that's just the thing is people, you like, I can't get along with other vegans in general. Like, there's some good vegans, of course. There's you, there's Pafo, there's Jamie, there's Monique. There's some people I really like, but the majority of vegans are still very strange, and they tend to align with a particular political view, and I can't always agree with them. And I don't want to just join a club. I don't just want to agree with a group of people for the sake of being cool and having them accept me.
Well, what I really don't get is that so I did a response video to a video that I saw on a lot of conservative channels. And it was a very short TikTok video, and it had pre-vegans, and they were talking about colonialism and white supremacy within veganism and that kind of thing. And it was really weird because one of the people in that video talking about veganism and talking about how veganism shouldn't be white supremacy wasn't even vegan herself. And I thought that was like ridiculous, because it was just giving you some like random random far left SJWs and getting them to talk about veganism. And I thought, like, if they had some people from the far right talking about veganism, I think it would just be hilarious. I mean, like if they got, I don't know, think about this. So there's a woman called Laura Towler, and she's an ethnonationalist. So she has some really radical views on immigration, all this stuff. She was saying, like, veganism has to be nationalist. I thought that'd be really funny. Because she's not even vegan.
Oh man, yeah, it's crazy. Like, it's so weird how like I have seen non-vegans tell vegans how they should change their approach to be a better vegan activist. And it's like, but when they're not vegan themselves, then how in the world are they qualified to give vegans advice on how to spread our message?
Yeah, but I mean, it's not just that, but it's like a non-vegan telling me how to change my political ideology to be more in line with their political ideology. I mean, why are they telling me that? Why are they telling me how to be vegan, right?
Yeah.
When their political ideology has nothing to do with veganism, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, like it's weird because this happens in this modern area. It's very strange because you have, well, what my friend calls these intersectionals. Where, it's like see, here's the thing is some people try to expand veganism to, to include all human rights issues. And the thing is, all these issues may be important, but the problem is that, let's just say one bag can only hold so many groceries. Okay. So what happens is that when you try to turn vegan activism into being, against racism and talking about race issues, and then talking about, LGBT issues, and you start bringing all these other human rights issues, poverty, health, all kinds of things. Once you start getting into all those other issues, well, then you realize the focus has been lost. And I happen to think that the animals should be our main focus. Like, I think the animals should be our main focus if we're going to be effective vegan activists. But I'll bring up other issues. Like, for example, I may say to a trans person, I might say, well, you are female even though you were born in a male body. So you understand that what you are is not necessarily what your body is. And if you understand that, you can understand that just because somebody else is in the body of a cow or a sheep or a chicken, that doesn't mean they're any less valuable as a person than you are. So you can use racial issues, you can use transgender issues as a way to explain veganism, as long as you don't go too far and get sidetracked, because people try to pull you into other issues.
So what I suppose what I have an issue with is the fact that there's kind of firstly a pushing of your own political ideology onto someone else. So, for example, you might be like, oh, well, veganism has to be about equality, and equality means being pro-immigrants, so being a globalist and allowing all the immigrants into the country. Well, if you're speaking to a nationalist about veganism being globalist, that's going to put them off veganism.
Yeah.
Just like if I started talking to someone with a, I don't know, abortion is medical care t-shirt on about veganism being pro-life, they're not going to be interested in veganism because it's against what they believe.
Right.
And so I think that's the first issue I have. The second issue I have is that racial issues are very nuanced. Now, if we're going to talk about, let's say, I don't know, slaves being employed to run the Olympic Stadium, or build the Olympic Stadium, or we're going to talk about ethnic minorities in Muslim minorities in China being pushed into concentration camps. I mean, that's fine. That's one issue. If we're going to talk about Black Lives Matter and police brutality, and we're going to say that Black people are disproportionately killed by police officers than white people. Well, I personally don't believe that. So, I mean, we're going to have issues. I think it's more of a police brutality issue than a racial issue. I mean, if you look at Tony Timper, he was killed by a police in the same position as George Floyd. The police suffocated him by putting a knee to his neck. So it's a police brutality issue, that, rather than a race issue. And so you get into all of these nuanced topics.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, which people have very different opinions on. So that's the third thing. And I suppose the second thing is that, the third thing is that people have intersectionals see the world as every right is intersected with each other. So it's like you're transphobic if you think that trans people should have their own separate sports team, because trans women are women, and it gets into this weird stuff because often rights of different people contradict each other. So we could look at guns being used by police. Well, that gives a level playing field to to female police officers. But then that may mean that that black people are more likely to be shot. Because they might have to use more brutal force, female police officers, I don't know. So it's like there's crosses and there's different rights being violated while other people are given more rights, and it's a whole nuanced topic. And I don't think they understand that.
Yeah, definitely. And I have thoughts about that, but I need to use the restroom again. We've actually been going for a long time. Okay. Yeah.
Well, we can leave it here. It's fine.
Yeah. Did you want to end this live stream and us do another one another time, or should we continue going for a little bit longer?
Oh, we'll continue going for a little bit longer, and then that's it.
Yeah, I'll just give you the restroom, but then I have some thoughts in response to what you said.
Okay. You're back.
Yeah, I'm back. So the thing is, all of these issues are vast. Like, somebody could go on to LGBT issues or race issues forever. And that's the problem, is you can get sucked into the black hole as soon as you start trying to promote animal rights along with the rights of other individuals and other topics. You could get so sucked into that other topic, because you get talking about that topic and people forget all about the animals. So you got to be careful. I think you can make comparisons to the rights of certain groups of humans to the other animals, but you do that as a one-on-one individual basis with people you're talking to, but not really as for a podcast and other things as much, not public activism in front of a lot of people.
With my activism, I basically aim my videos at people on the right. So it depends on what your target market for your videos is, I suppose, because with mine, I'm targeting people on the right. So it's like, and I'm not, I don't know, I make content that I particularly like and that expresses my views.
Yeah.
So that people can kind of understand them. And also so that hopefully they're hooked in by a video about, I don't know, let's say Shrill. I did a review of Shrill, and it was all about kind of casual sex, and it's a really bad feminist TV show. But I spoke about how contraception is tested on animals in that video. So that will hopefully kind of get the thoughts rolling in their minds. So that's kind of an idea.
Yeah, I think if done well, you can really be effective. But when you mention certain topics, we actually have some more comments here. Check this out, Neo Skeptic. Yo, Chadla, my nigga, my nigga. Where are you at, cuz? Yo, Chadla. Do you read me? Earth to Chandler, do you copy? You're trying to get my attention, aren't you? Yeah, I love it, my nigga. This is so funny. Like, seriously. Yeah, I read your comments there. It's just that I'm also talking with Vegan Ariel. Actually, I wanted to ask you. Now I know that you have your name on here as Jasmine. Is that your actual legal name? Is Jasmine?
That's my legal name.
Yeah, but you call yourself.
My channel is Vegan Ariel.
Yeah. Now, does Vegan Ariel, does that have anything to do with Ariel, the Little Mermaid from the Disney movie?
Yeah, it does.
I wondered about that. Yeah. That movie was actually my friend's favorite movie, The Little Mermaid. And that,
okay.
Yeah, actually, here's what's interesting is, in the first movie, yeah, Ariel, she wants to be human, probably just because she's in love with that hot prince guy. That's probably why. I don't know. And then there's a sequel to The Little Mermaid. There's The Little Mermaid 2, where Ariel, she's a human, but then she has a daughter, and her daughter wants to be a fish.
Oh, yeah. I think I've heard of that.
I know. I saw the sequel, and I'm like, yeah. So first, one person wants to be a human, but then their daughter wants to live in the ocean and be like a fish, and so then she becomes a mermaid, and it's really crazy. And actually, I think that the Little Mermaid movies are sort of like a transgender documentary. like that's how I interpret it. Okay, I interpret it because someone's born as one thing, but they want to live the life of something different, And so I kind of look at it. In fact, there's even a transgender organization called Mermaids that raises awareness about transgender things. So I'm not the only one who has thought of that, but I just think about that. But good movie anyway. My favorite movie was Beauty and the Beast for many years because it's all about seeing the beauty of the person, even if they look like a beast, And that Gaston was the hot dude that everyone in the town liked, but he was the monster. So I like that movie. There's some good moral messages in these movies. But anyway, I was going somewhere with this. What was I saying? Oh yeah. There's another thing I wanted to talk to you about because I haven't seen this video, but something about fat acceptance. One of your videos.
Oh,
yeah, something about fat acceptance and casual sex. Is it good for women or something like that?
Yeah. That was my review of the TV series Shrill. So it was just a review of the first episode, and in the first episode, it's kind of really weird. So there's a subplot that goes through. She's morbidly a racist woman, but there's a subplot that goes throughout the movie, which is about her going into a cafe, right, and seeing some kind of poster of a fitness woman who's doing a kind of fitness, I don't know, some kind of fitness thing. And she, the woman she's taking a picture of this fitness poster to send to some of her friends and like to take the piss out of this woman doing this fitness. But the woman doing the fitness is in the cafe. And so the woman comes up to her and is like, oh, do you want to join my fitness class kind of thing? And she's like, she doesn't want to say no, but she doesn't want to say yes. So it's like, it's kind of a bit awkward. And then she meets the fitness woman again, and she says something nasty, like they kind of have this awkward conversation again, and then the woman says something nasty as she walks, like the fat woman says something nasty as she walks on, and then she ends up in this argument with this fitness woman because the fitness woman heard her. So it's kind of a bit weird because it had this weird underlying message of fat acceptance and this weird underlying message that she could be like as obese as she wanted to be and still healthy. And I found that kind of like really weird because if you're fat, normally you accept that you're fat and you accept that you need to do something about it to improve your health and improve your lifestyle. Like, and she wasn't doing that. And I would be okay with having a fat character who knew they were fat, but maybe like a realistic view where you just couldn't be bothered to lose any weight, fine. But like this whole weird thing, like, oh, it's fine to be this way kind of thing. It was a bit, really weird.
Well, I know, like, I mean, I am familiar with like this whole fat acceptance idea because like there are some people who are like, they're fat and they're proud of it, you know, and it's like they just think, oh, the stores need to make bigger clothes for fat people like me. And then other people are like, no, maybe you should just lose weight, you know, and it's like, you know, so that's a whole nother rabbit hole, the whole fat acceptance thing, because see, and here's the thing is another thing about fat people that's very interesting is there's more than one reason somebody may be fat.
Yeah.
You know, I hate how they reduce it to just, you know, the person just eats all day and they overeat and that's why they're fat. And it's not necessarily that because it's also about your hormone levels, what kinds of food you're eating, you know, and exercise and all kinds. You might have a thyroid issue. And so I don't want people, no matter how fat someone is, I don't want somebody assuming that they are intentionally being unhealthy and that they're just too lazy or stupid to lose weight. But at the same time, I do think it goes too far when somebody is like one of those fat proud people, like, I am fat and I'm the sexiest thing ever because I'm fat, and you should be fat too because I want the rest of the world to be fat like me or something. You know, like that goes too far. You know, you start having fat pride marches, and then you start having people who are skinny and they identify as fat, so then they call themselves trans fat, and then yeah, like, you know what I mean, like transgender, trans fat. You get it?
Yeah.
Like that.
Personally, I think genetics only takes you so far in being fat or thin.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that. I think that often if you gain too much weight or you lose too much weight, then it might not be. It's either some kind of underlying issue with self-esteem or with I don't know, you're eating to comfort yourself, that kind of thing, or you've just got into bad habits. Yeah. So I think there are some people that are naturally on the heavier end of healthy, and there's some people naturally on the lower end. But I don't think anyone's naturally like morbidly obese or obese.
Yeah, probably not. And another thing is, you know, although somebody isn't guaranteed to be skinny just because they're vegan, I will say that it's a lot easier to lose weight when you're vegan because, you know, you're not eating all that animal fat, that cholesterol, all that crazy stuff. And yet you're getting nutrition if you're eating good plants, you know. So it depends on what you're eating, obviously. Even as a vegan, you can be fat or skinny. But yeah, I mean, and health is an interesting thing. Health actually turns into so many issues because you can tie health with veganism. You can tie health with the obesity issue. You can tie in health with the transgender issue, like what are the health risks or benefits of people going on certain hormones, you know? So health is interrelated to a lot of topics.
I think that the only thing that I think the fat acceptance movement has got right is, I don't know, but basically, so I suppose they're wrong in this as well. But anyway, sometimes they'll say that weight doesn't determine health, and that's the case in some ways. It's one determinant of health. So if you're overweight, you're more likely to have a heart attack. You're more likely to have heart disease, all of those issues, diabetes. However, even if you're skinny or even if you're a healthy weight, it's also about the quality of food that you're eating.
Yeah.
Because if you're having if the majority of your calories are from soda or like McDonald's, or even if you're skinny, you'll end up getting tooth erosion, or you'll end up getting diabetes, or you'll end up getting some kind of health issue related to the fact that you're eating crap.
Exactly. You know, or you could be skinny, but you could be a smoker and give yourself lung cancer too. So that's the thing. And here's one thing that bothers me though, is that how fat or skinny people are. Well, here's where it gets creepy, is that people place a great emphasis on, you know, how good people look, like, and how sexy they are, supposedly, you know, based on how skinny they are or not. And so the problem is that people's health suffers when they worry about appearance too much. So somebody might be healthy, they might actually be successful in losing weight, but then they don't look like, say, Jillian Michaels, for example. They don't look like that, an athlete like that, and then they think that they're not as good because they don't look like some person who's a fitness guru who has been fit all their life, you know. So if people can learn to love themselves and their body, and yet always improve and try to change and be better than what they are, that's good. You know, like we can accept ourselves even though we're fat, but we shouldn't promote like being fat like it's the greatest thing ever, because that will lead to some people being unhealthy for the sake of it and having a club, you know.
Yeah, but I think part of self-love is, I mean, if you love yourself, then why would you want to harm your body? I think that's a really good argument, because if you love yourself, even as you are, and you're obese, it's good to lose weight so that you can live for a long time, so that that your body's healthy.
Exactly.
I mean, I need to crack down on my sugar because I've got tooth erosion, but it's one of the issues.
Yeah, but definitely, yeah. If you love yourself, you'll take care of your body too. So I think that's a very positive message. But like, seriously, and also, you know, I don't understand what the whole right wing, left wing stuff even really means. Like, I haven't even been able to figure out American politics because I'm in the U.S., you're in the U.K., you know, and so it's a little bit different here than it is there, I assume. But here's like my impression, because I'm not a political person at all, really. But so I'm not Republican or Democrat, you know. Because
you're like a swing voter, is that right?
Yeah, I guess is a swing voter somebody who votes based on certain issues? Is that sort of thing, rather than joining a party?
Well, I mean, by swing voter, it is that you vote different parties depending on the election.
Oh yeah. So like you might vote for people.
So you might vote for, like, let's say you voted for Trump last time, but then you voted for Biden this time. That's what quite a lot of voters do.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, and that actually makes sense, because if you listen to what someone's supposedly about, and then you vote for them based on whether you think they'd be a good president or whatever other politician, based on what's going on at the time, rather than just like, oh, well, I'm loyal to this person because they're a Republican or party, or because this person's good looking, therefore I'll vote for them.
Yeah, I think that basically when you're on the right, and especially when you're, I don't know how to say this, basically when you're on the right, and you're very passionate about certain issues, then what ends up happening is that the party doesn't seem right-wing enough for you. So it's like the Conservative Party in the UK. Well, I think that having lower taxes would be a good idea. I'm basically by definition a civic nationalist. Like, what else? I mean, I'm against sex before marriage. I think that making it so that maybe you had to pay for contraception would be a better idea, something like that. So, I mean, I have a lot of policies and a lot of ideas which are further right than the Conservative Party. So, essentially, I'd have to vote Conservative every time because that's my only option. That's like right enough, I suppose.
Yeah, it's interesting because here's the thing: is that things are intermingled because, like, for example, I don't really understand much about Republicans or Democrats because here's my impression is that I get the impression that Republicans, they care a lot about people's individual freedoms, and so they have a tendency to believe they might have. I don't even know. Because I'll be vague because I don't even really know. But I know for one thing that they believe in citizens having the right to own guns, for example. That's one thing that Republicans tend to be, whereas the Democrats not so much. And then another thing is, Republicans generally tend to be the ones making pro-life laws, restricting abortion after a certain term into the pregnancy, that sort of thing, I
mean, that's why I vote Conservative in the UK as well, because they're much more likely to be pro-life.
Yeah, and see, here's the thing about it is, and I don't think that abortion will become illegal. I really don't. But here's what I don't like is that when you have Democrats in office, then that decisions are made and government gives subsidies to Planned Parenthood. Well, force taxpayers to pay for people's abortions. So people aren't even paying for their own abortions. But instead, it's, people who are pro-life are being forced by taxation to pay for other people's abortions. So that's part of why I vote Republican generally for that reason, because I tend to think that if people have to pay for their own abortions, their own birth control, that sort of thing, it's rather than having other people pay for it and then them getting it free or at a reduced price, people will consider their actions. Like if they have to pay for their own lifestyle, it's sort of like, for example, people who smoke cigarettes, they should have to pay for their own cigarettes. They shouldn't force non-smokers to buy their cigarettes. So that's why I voted for Trump. That was one reason I voted for Trump. And the other reason was because Biden creeps me out. Like Biden just creeps me out so bad. Seriously, like you can find videos of him going up behind women and sniffing their hair. Like he
did that with like little kids and stuff.
Yeah. He does it with a lot of people. You just go up to somebody, sneak up behind them, and sniff their hair. That's some pretty creepy stuff right there. Videos of him touching people without their consent, And so I personally I know that people have accused Trump of some things, but I've also seen some things from Biden. Like I think he might be a sex offender. Also, he sounds. Oh man, when he talks, someone will ask him a question, he'll never actually answer the question. He'll go off on some rabbit trail and be talking about something else and dodge the question.
Oh, there was a podcast where he said the N-word, which was one of the issues. There was another time where he was doing a talk, right? And in the middle of this talk, to the press, he just randomly walked off and then came back on stage. And then he forgot half of. Someone asked a two-part question, and he answered the first part, and then he forgot the second part.
Yeah, I don't know, man. All I know is something seems a little shady about the guy, and I don't necessarily trust Trump necessarily either. I don't really know the guy. Personally, here's how I feel about politicians is that I don't know them personally. They're not a friend that I hang out with to really know where they really stand on issues. So I don't know whether to even believe the things they say in presidential debates, because they could just be lying and saying whatever people want to hear to win votes. But from all the stuff I had read about Donald Trump while he was in office, defunding Planned Parenthood, and not having that be subsidized by the government, that had a lot to do with it, and like I said, Biden scares me. Biden scares me, and now he's our president. It's weird.
There was also the issue with the fact that employers under the Biden administration, they actually have a policy where employers will be forced to pay for their employees' contraception.
Oh yeah.
Which I found
Actually,
really weird.
yeah, that is weird. I remember that there was actually a big old lawsuit where Hobby Lobby for example, years back, Hobby Lobby was trying to fight a law that they had to pay for hormonal birth control for their female employees. And they didn't want to because they are a Christian-owned organization. They have traditional values, so they tend to not be for birth control, and so they didn't like that, and so there was a big lawsuit, and what about Catholic hospitals full of nuns who don't even have sex themselves, and the Catholics aren't really in favor of forcing Catholics to pay for birth control. That's also pretty bad. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I personally, I can't stand the Democrats in general because they want to have taxpayers be forced to pay for things so they get things for free. That's just my general impression from what little I know. That seems to be their impression they give me. Whereas Republicans tend to be a little bit not so much that way, the individual's freedom of responsibility a little bit more. Now, I don't necessarily agree with Republicans when it comes to everybody having the right to just own guns. Because I have mixed feelings about the gun issue. I really feel like that, like in an ideal world, of course, nobody would be violent, nobody would need guns anyway. But this ties in with veganism too. It does, because a lot of people, the reason they want to own guns is because they want to go shoot and kill animals and they want to hunt. They want to go shoot deer and eat them. So that's why a lot of those people want to have guns. Whereas a vegan like me, who doesn't believe in killing anything, of course, I'm not going to own a gun. That's the thing about it.
Well, I think, I don't know how to say this, but I remember being quite, so I live in Britain and we don't have guns, and then the police officers don't even have guns, right?
Oh, interesting.
So I felt kind of a bit intimidated because I was at an animal save and the trucks were coming in and we were stopping the trucks and we were filming the animals. And what was really bad was someone had a gun on their passenger seat, one of the slaughterhouse workers taking the animals into the slaughterhouse. And I felt like it would have been pretty bad because he could have got that gun and tried to shoot us all up if he wanted to.
Yeah.
And the police officer couldn't have done anything about it because the police officer doesn't have a gun.
Yeah, well.
So I think at the least you need police officers with guns.
Yeah, well, and what I kind of think is police officers, maybe they should have tasers or tranquilizer guns, but not the type of gun that can very easily kill someone. I feel like shoot people, put them to sleep, and then take away their guns. So they can't, and put them in jail too if they're.
I think the thing is that it's easy for criminals to get guns.
Yeah.
So you need to have police officers with guns to protect people, and then there's also issues with the fact that you have female police officers trying to detain men.
Yeah.
And okay, you can have tasers and stuff, but there was a British police officer who was female who was beaten to death by a man.
Yeah.
Because she only had a taser and that was it. So I think that you need lethal weapons as well, I would say.
Yeah, well, and that's another thing is, quite honestly, I don't really think females should be police officers.
Really?
Because look how dangerous it is for them, like what you were just saying. I do think that there are situations like that where they are at a disadvantage. They're more open to be attacked like that. That's the thing, Like, not to be sexist, I'm not against. It's weird. I just think it's not safe. I mean, maybe I'm not saying necessarily that they should not be allowed to be police officers. If they're willing to risk their lives, then take on that risk. But what I am saying is that's not a smart thing to do. If you're some small little woman and you're trying to be a police officer, you got to realize that even your guns probably aren't going to protect you, even if you have guns, because men are bigger and stronger, and they will kill you with their bare hands. So that I just say for their own safety that they shouldn't do it, because it's not a smart idea.
So that's quite interesting, because I've never heard a centrist say that. I've heard a lot of men say that. But well, yeah. I don't know. I think you need. I don't think there's anything wrong with females being police officers, but if you're having females as police officers, you need lethal force. I think that's it.
Yeah.
It's also like an issue with a lot of police officers. I mean, there was a police officer that was at an animal save, and she was probably like, I don't know, 40s maybe. And because she was in her 40s and because she was a small woman, she just wasn't as, and she was quite fat. She just wasn't as strong as she was when she was younger.
Yeah. Yeah, but it is true. See, just like with the trans people in sports, there are things to consider, you know? I just think, like, for example, and this is weird, is that apparently, like, see, men in America are required to register for the draft so that they can be taken against their consent into the army or other military.
Okay.
Yeah, this is weird. See, they don't require women to register for the draft, but they require everybody over 18 of the males to register for the draft. Now, typically they aren't drafted. Typically people voluntarily join the military. But in a situation where there's a war, there have been times in the past where men is like, well, you're a male and you're over the age of 18, therefore you have to come join the army and fight in this war. And that's sexism against men. Now, women still voluntarily joined the army and stuff, but they didn't have them fight in battle. They had them be nurses. They had them do other things to assist. They didn't have them fight, and there's a good reason for that, because it is a physical disadvantage. That's the thing about it, is that people, and the thing is, in this modern age with transgender people don't like to admit that there are biological differences between men and women, and males and females biologically, but there are so many key differences. I believe that a male, on average, is even more likely to survive a gunshot wound, just because their bodies are so much bigger. Their heart and lungs are so much bigger. So they're more likely to survive even a situation that's bad in war. They're still more likely to live, you know. And then women, because of their much smaller size and all sorts of things that go on, like, I just think, yeah, it's good to keep them away from very physically dangerous jobs. You know, if they want to do it, like if they really want to go risk their life, it's their right, it's their life. You know, you have the right to life, but you also have the right to die. So say you want to be a firefighter. Like, let's say that you want to be a firefighter, whether you're male or female, there's a really good chance you could die while you're trying to save someone else from a fire. So whether you're male or female, you're taking on a risk with certain career choices. But I think that some things are more risky for females than males. They're just for physical attribute reasons.
What I found really weird was they had pregnancy suit for I think it was pilots in the army, and I was thinking that's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, like
I mean, like, you'd think that if you got pregnant and you were in the military, the moment that you got pregnant, you'd be out, you know, sent back home.
Yeah, you would think
on maternity, and then you come back.
Well, yeah, like, why would you be having people being involved doing things in the military while they're pregnant? That's not a very good idea. Like,
yeah, exactly, because it's not, at that point, it's not your life that's at risk. It's the life of your unborn child as well.
Exactly. It's about two lives could die at the same time as opposed to just one. So that's,
but you're also making the choice for your child. That's the thing.
Exactly. See, that's the thing about it. And so I feel like, it's not a very pro-life thing to do, to be trying to risk your own life while you have someone else's life inside you. You know, it's crazy. Crazy stuff is going on in the world. And the thing is, you know, I'm generally for I don't look. I don't like government very much. I don't like the concept of things being mandated, like the draft that I mentioned, or things being banned. But
I think that the reason for the draft on men is because women could be pregnant and not know. I think that's one thing.
Yeah, that's another reason.
And they're weaker, and then it's like,
yeah.
So it kind of makes sense in a way. It was like in the Viking era, it was really interesting because the men had to go out to war, but the women could choose to go out to war or not.
Yeah, that was
because women were, well, in the Viking era in the UK, women were pregnant for a lot of their fertile life.
Yeah.
And so it kind of made sense to have that choice.
Yeah. It's very interesting. But yeah, see, there are good reasons for that. The thing though is, I just believe that the draft is wrong, even when it's under males. The idea that someone's just trying to live their own peaceful, nonviolent life, it's like, sorry, bud, you were born with testicles, therefore you have to join our war, whether you want to or not. Like, that's pretty mean. That's mean, you know? Yeah, I was actually in the Navy briefly. I didn't make it past boot camp. I was in basic training, but they sent me to the hospital. I was sick with pneumonia, and I was having suicidal tendencies at the time. So they discharged me for physical and medical reasons. So I never made it through boot camp in the Navy. And I only joined the Navy because I was unable to get a job somewhere else. And so I thought, hey, I'll do something with my life. And I would just join the Navy hoping I could do something. I was going to be trained as an electrician. And I was hoping I wouldn't have to go to war, but I ended up being discharged long before I ever even got to anything like that anyway. So I'm glad of that, because I didn't really want to be in the Navy. But, I think it's still better for it to be a voluntary thing than to be forced to join the military. That's just weird. Like I said, I don't think that things should be mandated. I don't think things should be banned. And the problem with government is, I think that it's always a person forcing their views on the rest of society. Any law that somebody makes saying that, oh, you have to do this and you can't do that. Like, for example, we have laws like, oh, you can't buy tobacco products, or you can't drink alcohol unless you're the age of 21, for example. That's a law that people have even now. Now, I personally, I think it's good, because at least it results in less people drinking that are, at least while they're young. But I also think it's not enough, because people can get drunk and do horrible things when they are over 21. So, but at the same time, like, people can talk about, like, well, should alcohol be banned? Well, no. I mean, what about kombucha drinks that have naturally occurring alcohol? A fermented tea, yeah, it's alcohol, but it won't get you drunk. Like, you see what I'm saying? So once something becomes banned, and it's like, oh, this substance is not allowed, or nobody's allowed to buy this. Like, for example, the gun thing. Like, I'm not a big fan of guns and everybody having guns, because it's too easy for them to go kill people. But at the same time, like you said, criminals can still find a way to get guns. So, I feel like I have my opinions on these topics, but I don't necessarily think that my opinions should be enshrined in the law. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. For me, it's about the personal and the social level. So even my pro-life activism is, I've never done anything to try to make abortion illegal. I simply, for myself, I choose to avoid certain things, So that was one of my original reasons for vowing celibacy, So it's more.
I don't know. I think that basically, if you look into buying behavior, which is what I'm doing as my PhD, people buy things for 3 reasons. So they buy things for convenience, accessibility, availability, and price. So whether the product is available in the shop, whether the product is easy to get, so what shops actually do it, and the location of those shops related to where you live, and the price of those products. And so essentially, if you ban something, people are more likely to not do it. because you've cut out the accessibility, you've cut out the availability, and the price probably goes up because it's illegal. So you'd have to buy illegally,
right?
Which would mean people would have to sneak it into the country and all of that other stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not saying that it's
right.
It's not going. The people aren't going to do it. I mean, for example, weed. If you think about weed, 40% of people have smoked weed at some point in their lifetime.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that over 40% of people have drunk alcohol at some point in their lifetime.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like.
Yeah, it's weird. See, that's the thing about it is I think there are times when there are benefits to things being banned. But the thing is, I also think things can be a slippery slope in the sense that, well, if it's okay for the government to ban this, then why not this and this and this? And before you know it, everything's banned and nobody has any freedom, you know? And it's like, so I think it's crazy. So I think people need to be careful. That's why I think people need to have discussions like what we're doing. People need to have discussions about these topics because they are complex and people can learn to understand each other. And I can do that. I can disagree with someone without calling them racist or transphobic or saying they're a bad person because they disagree with me on a certain topic.
Well, it's like in Ireland, abortion was banned, for example. And there were issues with Ireland having banned abortion because what ended up happening was some women would cross the border into Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK, and they would have abortions there.
Yeah.
But then you're stopping women in Ireland having abortions. So that's a step in the right direction, I would say. And then people, if these, I don't know, if these services are hard to access, it's unlikely that people are going to really go out of their way to get an abortion in Northern Ireland.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and here's the thing about it. Somebody could make the case also that in an area where abortion is not available, it's not easily accessible, well, then people might think, well, maybe I'll just be celibate right now since I don't want children. Or they'll at least wait until they're married and in a committed relationship. They might be more careful about their choices. Because what happened in America was really sad because after abortion was legalized, well, then, people thought, oh, well, I could just have sex with anybody I want and just have an abortion if I get pregnant. So that resulted in people having casual sex with people and lots more unwanted pregnancy, and then spreading sexually transmitted diseases too. That's another aspect, is the more people are having sex, the more sexually transmitted diseases are being passed around and that sort of thing. And so I feel like there are unfortunate consequences when abortion is legal, but at the same time, there's consequences when it's illegal. And the bottom line is people do bad things and bad things happen in this world regardless of what we do. But I still think we are better for having had the discussion because as people learn about these things, it informs their choices, about what they do in their own personal life. And also it might change how they vote. I don't know. But it's up to them how they interpret things in a way. So it's interesting, but it's certainly interesting. It's a journey. It's kind of an exciting process to talk about these issues. And I can talk about these issues now without getting as upset as I used to. I've gotten used to being able to talk with people I disagree with about things. And see, when I contacted you, I saw your videos. I thought, hey, we're going to agree on some things. We're going to disagree on a lot of things. But, this will be fun. This will be fun to talk, And also, we've been going for about 2 hours, almost 2 hours, 45 minutes. Yeah. I think we probably do need to end this live stream because my mom was expecting me to call her too. So
okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so I need to get off here, but we could do this again sometime. This has been fun, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been pretty good.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you, Jasmine.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, I hope everyone has enjoyed this little live stream. We've talked about every possible imaginable issue in less than 3 hours. Yes, it's a lot of fun. So thanks so much for doing this for me. And let me know if you'd like to do it again sometime. We could do it again. We could think of something else to talk about.
Okay. Well, I will. I'll contact you if I want to do it again. But I think I'm probably a bit busy. But
yeah, sure. Yeah, just at some point. This has been a lot of fun. So thanks very much. So I
okay.
guess yeah, I guess I'll see you another time. And of course, we can always message, email, message on Facebook, that kind of thing. And I'll probably still see your posts on your page and in that free speech group.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We'll see you.
Yeah. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.